What's good, everybody, and welcome back to the channel for the MLB draft here on our draft-only franchise with the Birmingham Barons on MLB the Show 23. We have the number one pick in this draft, and so this should be a good one. Of course, if you want to check out my big board, there is a link in the description of every video where you can see all the players that I scouted that I liked in this class. But let's go ahead and go through the guys I liked in the first couple of rounds before we get underway. Alberto Rincon is easily the best offensive player in this draft. Has a power bat, which is our biggest need heading into this draft. Not much of a defender, though, and so that opens the door for maybe somebody like McCallum to enter the discussion as the number one overall pick. He has that defense, plays a very important defensive position, while still looking to be able to make an impact on the offensive side, but mostly through contact and his plate skills. Not going to be much of a power hitter, which is our biggest need. And I honestly went back and forth on this one, mostly because there's a chance we could snag somebody like Pablo Jimenez in the second round, and we can get our power that way, and the opportunity of potentially getting that with Pablo Jimenez made McCallum just a really tempting guy when I've been, pretty heavily on Rincon in most of this pre-draft process. And some pitchers to consider in round 2 should we not get Jimenez. We've got Esteban Acevedo, just so Steven Gutierrez as well. I think those are a couple of really strong pitching options in the second round. And those are kind of my favorite players at the top of this class. My 5 favorite, I would say. So after much deliberation, Chicago White Sox would have, a lot of debates in the draft room. Do we go with the two-way player or do we get the power bat? And we would decide to draft the power bats. Alberto Rincon would be the number one overall pick for the Chicago White Sox. We think just too good of a chance to be one of the best offensive players in all of baseball for us to pass up here. Of course, we will be looking at McCallum's ratings at some point in this draft. The Reds are up next. They go with the left fielder that I think is going to be pretty good as well. He also projects to be a good power bat. And then Manny Rincon will go to the Nationals. He was my favorite kind of potential pitcher in this class. Like I said, Roger Dalton, going to be a power bat. Don't know what else he offers, though. And then Rincon just has an insanely high walks per 9 rating. And I'm interested to see where that actually shakes up. Let's go ahead and simulate now to our second round pick. And Esteban Acevedo remains on the board, as does Bartolo Ordonez. He doesn't actually even have a scouting report because he's somebody our scouts discovered at the last second. But our discovery scout swears that this guy will be one of the best closers in the entire class and really wants us to draft this player. But my favorite round 2 option, maybe 1B with Pablo Jimenez being considered, but once we drafted Rincon, this guy definitely wasn't the number one guy on my board. Just has a special combination of velocity and break, which are 2 of the 3 ratings that don't really improve in MLB the Show 23, and that's just a combination that I cannot pass up. Has the chance to be, a guy in the mid-60s with A potential as well. I love that. So now simulate forward to round 3. Got some other pitchers on the board, but despite not having him scouted, our discovery scout really speaks highly of Bartolo Ordonez. And just kind of in round 3 in general, there are a few relief pitchers that we discovered that I didn't scout that were the highest on my board. And the guy that our scouts were the highest on in general. Seems like the right way to go. Gonna have good strikeouts per 9, good hits per 9. That's kind of what you want from your closing pitcher. Velocity and breaker are going to be in a decent spot as well. Nothing special there. But should we decide to go outside of reliever, there's a position player here in Stanley Carlton. Probably our last real chance at getting a position player in this class that's good. And he's not even that great. He's just a good fielder. And getting somebody who I think can play middle infield, second base is a secondary position for this player, was tempting, but at the end of the day, just getting a guy that our scouts had top 10 in the class was too good to pass up on. Found in the very last week of scouting, and he ends up being our third pick. The guy we were considering at third base in round 3 ends up going prior to our 4th round pick, which probably means we won't be taking another position player in this draft, maybe a flyer in round 6. But we've got a guy who's going to most likely be just in the 50s overall, but can have quite a good potential here in Floyd Sable. And at round 4, I'm willing to take the more project kind of player as long as I believe in his long-term potential, which I do with this player. Fast forwarding now to round 5, Andreas Ornelas remains on the board. He was one of the guys that I was considering to be our top relief pick prior to the discovery of Ordonez, so the fact that he's there in round 5 makes sense to me. Greg Stevenson remains on the board, as does Pedro Ybarra. We also have Lima as well. Aldo Bermudez is a shortstop who's going to have a potential to maybe be like a low to mid 70s overall with mid to high 70s potential. If he was a little bit better of a fielder, maybe it'd be more of a temptation. There's a 50-point gap between the overall and potential of that first baseman. That's probably just a little bit too big of a gap for me. Tried to find somebody that could wet my whistle in terms of maybe going off the board, going for somebody we didn't scout, but I just couldn't quite find somebody that I felt really was a good pick. So we'll go upside swinging at starting pitcher once again. Stevenson's not going to be good anytime soon, but could he come into play? Maybe save us some money deeper into this franchise when some guys are asking for arbitration, and he could finally, be MLB ready at that some point. Could be. So let's shift gears now. We're going to do more than just the draft in this episode. Let's go ahead and take a look at the AllStar Rankings. Diego Moya is in second place among starting pitchers, pitching with a 2.29 ERA, 103 WHIP. Buster Pringle also on the board. So, a couple of starters that are definitely in the mix. In terms of relieving pitching, not much there for us. Kevin Sandoval just playing absolutely out of his mind this year. Way better than I could ever have hoped at the plate. He is leading all catchers, unsurprisingly, in the voting. Chad Pollock, despite being just a 52 overall, is actually second place for first base All-Star voting, just a positive WAR here. I'm not hitting very well, but he is stealing a lot of bases, which is uncommon for a first baseman. Over at second base, we have the third place vote getter with Benito Vasquez. Third place also as well with Marty Dempsey over at third base. So pretty much every position except for bullpen, we have somebody towards the top of the list. Jeff Melvin, once again, third place. A lot of these guys are just going to miss out on the All-Star game this year, but I like to see some good representation. Even Blake Boyer here getting some consideration, though he's a little bit further down on the board. As you can expect, he's definitely not very good right now. Left field is somebody that Thought Jason Gill would have a chance to be there this year, but of course the big injury, which he just got healthy from, by the way. So we will be getting him back next time we play. Leandro Velasquez is leading the vote getting over at center field. Kevin Alcantara, we have definitely seen Kevin Alcantara and why he's in the All-Star consideration. And Carl McIntyre, so we have two of the top three vote getters at center field, even though Leandro Velasquez hasn't actually played a lot of center this year. Then Alden Evans will lead this right field vote. Been hitting for some really good contact, hitting over 300. Also swiping a good number of bags this season. So I think this team is pretty well represented for this upcoming All-Star game. And Buster Pringle here with a minor injury. But we would end up simulating through this All-Star game with the AA players, just because you can't really do player lock in a CPU versus CPU franchise. So could have taken over, some of these guys theoretically, and maybe if this is like the Athletics franchise when we were actually playing, but just can't do player lock in CPU versus CPU. We'll just go ahead and take a look at the box score instead. We would end up losing our Southern League North team in 13 innings. There was some scoring early, and then it just stopped until the 13th inning when I keep thinking Salt Lake, but it's Southern League South would end up taking the victory over our Southern League North. Let's go ahead and shift gears back to the draft and go ahead and start to resign these players. We got a lot of players with very high interest here, and Sable, despite getting his interest well into the 70s and giving him much more than he was asking for, says no. So that's not annoying in the slightest. We're able to get all three players. So, everybody is going to get some level of interest acquisition in the first week. Able to get a ton of the signing done early, which helps us get some of these guys. It would take a lot longer than I thought to sign these last three, actually. Just a lot of declines from Sable and Ordonez. Being total hoes, if we're being honest. Just sign with us. We're giving you like twice as much as you want. Let's finally take a look at this class, and boy, is it a good one. No one below B potential in the entire class. Let's start with Alberto Rincon, 75 overall, 93 potential, and is just what I was hoping he would be offensively. Still more of a contact hitter than a power hitter, but that's fine. He's going to supply the power that this team desperately needs, and if you could do so also with a high average, you will not hear any complaints from me. Durability-wise, he's about middle of the road with it being in the 60s. That's kind of the baseline I want for durability. Then Esteban Acevedo, 94 velocity, 87 break. Now that 94 velocity is only translating to a 94 mile an hour four-seamer. That's something that I definitely think I'm going to change. I don't like changing ratings a ton in players, but like if you have one of the best velocities that the draft is going to generate, your four-seam fastball should be above average, it shouldn't be like straight up mid. And so the cause of that is one of his pitches just has a really low velocity rating, and so if I bring that one up, it should bring his four-seam fastball enough. So I will be doing that with him come the off-season time. And then Bartolo Ordonez here, really good strikeouts per 9. Only has a 3-pitch mix. Slider, fastball, sinker. Doesn't throw incredibly hard, but I like where a lot of these ratings are at. So I think he definitely has a chance to be our long-term closer. Floyd Sable is going to be a long-term project. Only comes in at 55 overall. Has good stamina for a starter. Velocity and breaker in a good spot as well. So the three things that he's not going to be developing, I like where they're at. And he's got A potential. One of the few A potential pitchers. I think that's just the second we'll have on the team. Andreas Ornelas. In terms of being a closing pitcher, I would say I like Ordonez more. So Andreas Ornelas more fitted to be a relieving pitcher rather than a closer for us in the long term, but I really like him in that role. And then Greg Stevenson, not the best pick, 52 overall with only low B potential, but that's our 6th round pick. And so if that's our worst pick and it's in the 6th round and everything else is really, really good, I'll take it. Esteban Acevedo, honestly a little bit lower on the scale than I was hoping for. I was hoping for a little bit more, maybe mid-60s overall with low A potential, but we don't get it here, and that is fine. I think overall this is going to be a draft class that could definitely push us through the minors. I think not only do we have a chance to get out of AA this year, but I think a draft class this good could get us out of AAA as soon as next year. We might be getting to the bigs sooner than I anticipated in this franchise. Taking a look at other picks around the league, Jimmy Milton's a really good, solid starting pitcher drafted here by the Royals. Gil Garcia, 73 overall, 82 potential, is a nice reliever, just a high floor, lower ceiling kind of guy. Mark Chavis, another guy kind of in that mold where I wouldn't mind guys like this because we have some guys with some high potentials at pitcher, but we still have a lot of guys that are going to be ready anytime soon. So if, like I said, we end up actually making it to the majors soon, our pitching is going to be trash. Our position players might not be the worst ever, but our pitching is going to be trash. So going forward, getting maybe some pitching that's going to be available earlier, not take quite as many years to develop. That's going to be a main priority for this franchise going forward, I think. Just because, like I said, Esteban Acevedo is probably a little bit farther away than I had anticipated. Still really like the pick. His ratings look really good, but there's that. Ray McCallum ends up coming in with 2 less overall and 3 less potential than Alberto Rincon. So we got the little bit better of a pick there. He does have better durability. Also looks to be a guy who long-term can play shortstop and be a good, positive defender there. So I really like a pick by the Marlins. I think it's the 2nd best pick in this draft. Continuing on now, going through some teams who just didn't really have good drafts. The Mets, I think that's a good starting pitching option there for them. I don't even know if I scouted him. Manny Rincon, 84 walks per 9 to start out. Not the highest, ceiling pitcher, but I was really just intrigued with him because he was going to have an insanely high walks per 9. Comes in at 84. That's kind of nuts. Roger Dalton ends up being a 63 with 89 potential. He would have been kind of cool just because it would have added yet another switch hitter, but outfield wasn't really what I was looking for, and just apart from his power, there wasn't much else to like, I felt like, with that player. Lewis Everett's a pretty solid pick, actually, in center field as well, so the Reds helping themselves get some outfield here. Pablo Jimenez ends up being a 66 overall with A potential. I think, had I been more confident that Pablo Jimenez could have lasted to us, he ended up being picked in the competitive balance round. I think a combination of McCallum and Jimenez to start the draft would have been sick. Juan Sixto is somebody our scouts really high on. Turns out that wasn't the best of picks. Got a A potential here for the Diamondbacks, but he's only 44 overall. Oh, this is the guy that had the 50-point gap that we were considering with our 6th-round pick. Probably would have been better than the guy we picked, but still not the best pick. Pablo Delgado is a guy I liked that was going to come in and likely be good straight away. He was just that. Doesn't have A potential, though, but very high B, which you like to see. Steven Gutierrez was probably, apart from Acevedo, the guy I was hoping that would drop to us the second most in terms of pitchers. He will end up actually having A potential. Stamina is at a good spot. Control is in a really good spot. That's what I liked about him, kind of the stamina control combination. So he would have at least made it tempting to go with him over Esteban Acevedo. I just really loved that intriguing combination of velocity and break with Acevedo. So I probably still would have gone the way we ended up going anyway. So some good picks around the league. I'd say we definitely had the best drafts. Only picking one position player is I would have liked to at least got a second, somebody who could maybe play some defense, because that's one of the ratings that we're not the best at here in this franchise. But you take what the draft board gives you, and I think we played the draft board really, really well in this draft. The last thing we're going to be doing here in this video is we're actually going to get some gameplay in as well. Simulated a whole month once again. So this was a game that I ended up taking a look at after we had signed everybody. And I just wanted to see Jason Gill back. You know, he's our highest potential position player on the team, and even after this draft, that will remain the case because Rincon's going to be a lower A potential than Gill. And so, also wanted to see Diego Moya. He was the top vote getter for the All-Star break in terms of pitchers. That puts him on an inside track to be named one of, the surprises of the year, or I guess the surprise of the year, since we don't have a major and a minor league team at this point in the franchise. But wanted to see a game pitched by him, and able to see the brand new returning player Jason Gill make a play there in left field. We'll be skipping a little bit more of this game than the typical game. Not going to show a full game. In fact, we will simulate the middle 3 innings in this game. But offensively, we're able to get off to a hot start with Carl McIntyre getting a leadoff single. Going to try to swipe a bag here with the Marty Dempsey at the plate. He'll do just that. Nicely done. He's got not only elite speed, but his steal rating is pretty high as well. So you got to expect him to be successful on most of his steal attempts. Alden Evans will be called out here on the grounder, but he will bring across McIntyre. That'll bring up Velasquez. He gets this one to go fair. Right down that third base line. Could be extra bases for him. And it will be. So with 2 outs, we've got a chance to bring home a second run here in the inning. And Jason Gill is going to have the chance to do just that. His first at-bat in a couple of episodes. And he's going to hit the gap. That's going to touch down and should be an RBI for Jason Gill. Welcome back. Nice to have him in left field. A good switch hitter back up in the lineup, as well as somebody who's a very good player in the field. In fact, I think he has the highest fielding rating on the team. Blake Boyer gets this one to fall in as well. So that would be a third RBI as Gill diving at the plate, able to beat the tag. That would be what we would get here in the first inning. Now, bringing up the second inning, order flips over. McIntyre will ground into a double play. Seeing a little bit more pitching now from Moya. He gets the strikeout on the pitch in the dirt. Nicely done by him. So far, still pitching a shutout. Offense back up. 1-0 pitch from Velasquez is going to find its way on the ground. Definitely looked like it could have been an easy out there for a minute. But now we've got a man on base for Jason Gillen. He's going to find the gap again over there in left field. Second time in this game. And he's going to get his second straight RBI hit. Very happy to have him in the lineup. Not only is he, of course, like I stated earlier, the highest ceiling, position player on this team, but he's also one of our best for this season. Alejo Lopez gets a hold of this one in the left field. So the Chattanooga Lookouts may be looking to do some offense. Like I said, plan to simulate the middle 3 innings, but up to that point, Moya had a no-hitter going. And so basically wanted to see how well he could keep it going, and the answer was he couldn't keep it going. But the Lookout offense would absolutely explode in the 4th and 5th innings, and they would actually take the 5-4 lead. Both teams would go scoreless in the 6th, and so now we actually all of a sudden are down as we come in to see the last 3 innings. Maybe I shouldn't have simulated the middle 3 innings just with so much other things happening in this episode. Didn't want to also have a full-length gameplay. We would keep the Lookouts from extending their lead here mid-8th, but now it's time for our offense to show up. Blake Boyer lifts this one, caught at shortstop, so now we've only got 3 more outs. Go ahead and take care of this lead, but also the Lookouts have a chance to go ahead and extend here. And Kyle Battle will get a leadoff single here. Gotta try to keep them off the board here so that we can tie the game up with really just 1 swing. And things are not going well here. Top of the 9th with 2 outs. An error there by Dempsey. We won't get any outs there. But the very next at-bats, Jason Gill diving play can't make it. So the Lookouts will be able to extend their lead. Now we have to make up a 3-score lead. That's something I'm not quite confident we could do. Confident in maybe being able to make up that 1 run in the 9th. But it's not going to stop there either. Now Nick Quintana getting in on the hitting action. Juan Moreno with a terrible outing would basically put this game away for the Lookouts. Chad Pollock, would get on base there. Trying to make things interesting here, but McIntyre would strike out. So only got 1 out left, and Marty Dempsey is going to fly out to short right field. So the Lookouts offense explodes for 3 innings, but that's all they needed to get a 5-run victory in this game. But that's all I have for this episode. Had a really fun draft. Of course, that was the focus. I'll be back soon with another episode, and I will see you then.